Hey everybody, this is Matt. I'm going to try to do this video. Hopefully I'll start doing a series of these videos to help you in your spiritual life and questions and just random thoughts that I have. And so I've been sitting on doing this just like I've been sitting on my podcast for a while. By the way, I need an audio engineer for that if anybody wants to try their hand at that. So I am taking applications for free work to do audio engineering, or I'll have to try to figure out how to do it on GarageBand myself. But I was thinking about the issue of spiritual lethargy, defined as being unconcerned with spiritual matters, unconcerned with the things of God, just finding yourself being stagnant in your faith. I struggle with that, just as I'm sure that you do. It's not, the Christian life is not a constant up incline. It's not as time increases, spiritual vitality increases. It's not a one-for-one relationship that is, the longer you spend time with God, actually there's a caveat, the longer time that you spend with God, then yes, there will be an increase. But a lot of times what happens in spiritual lethargy, or not being concerned about the things of God, is that you haven't cultivated a continual pursuit of God, namely what the early fathers called the interior life. A lot of times as evangelicals, we can get really scared when we think about or talk about the interior life. We can start thinking about, oh, well, there's a mysticism when we talk about the interior castle or the interior life, to use Teresa of Avila's book, The Interior Castle. But I think we're missing something very vital to the Christian life when we just think that if I know this answer, then I will be changed. And it's true that God changes our hearts after He changes His mind, after He changes our minds. But it's not only cerebral. A lot of us have not spent a lot of time in our own hearts to help push and pull us closer to Jesus. And so yes, as you spend more time with Jesus, you'll increase in your joy, increase in your happiness. But we live day to day. We go to work. I'm on my way to work right now. We go to family events. We go to things that are not always geared towards cultivating the inner spiritual life. And so if you would just think about like a garden, like it takes intentionality, it takes tools, it takes effort, and takes time to actually cultivate our own hearts. A lot of times over time though, if you haven't been working on cultivating your interior life, then the ground is hard and it just gets harder. So if you find that you are struggling with that spiritual lethargy, I came up with just this morning 3 things that hopefully will help you combat what I'm calling spiritual lethargy. First, to be able to consider how to fight this tendency in our hearts to not really care about spiritual things, to just kind of feel like you're going from one thing to the next, is in fact to stop and have silence. I would recommend setting a timer on your phone and setting 10 minutes of silence on your phone. Like put the timer on and just not have music, not have driving, not do anything. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to go into the woods. You don't have to go into the desert. You don't have to go somewhere where there aren't people. Like if I wanted to, I'm sitting in a parking lot right now, I could just spend 10 minutes just in quietness, because what happens a lot of times is we get so busy with life, we get so busy with earning a living, we get so busy with going from event to event, from thing to thing, from conversation to conversation, from email to email, that we don't ever just pause. And when you pause, there's space, and when there's space, there's room for the Spirit of God to do His work. And obviously the Spirit of God does His work through activity throughout the day. As you're driving to work, He sanctifies you, right? He sanctifies you through other drivers cutting you off, or slowing you down. And so the work of God, the work of the Spirit is always happening. But if we want to engage with that work, a lot of times we need to cultivate first solitude, even just if it's 10 minutes. I spend about 10 to 15 minutes just in silence in my mornings, just to get my heart in the right place, just to process thoughts. It's not spent in active prayer. It's spent in just silence, sipping my coffee, silence. So that's one way. Second way is to consider your own life. So you can do this after you've spent time in silence, but I would recommend getting a pen and paper and writing out what your thoughts are. This is journaling at its most basic. And so, why, you see in the Psalms, why are you downcast, O my soul? The person who wrote that had to actually sit down and write those words. It's not just something that was I'm just gonna automatically just shout out, why are you downcast, O my soul? No, that's true, that happens. But the psalmist had to sit down and consider the words that he was writing. Why are you downcast? Put your hope in God. And so I want to encourage you, secondly, to write down your fears. What are you afraid of today? What are you anxious about today? What are you excited about today? And just write it down. And then third, this was something that I've been doing for the last week or so to combat just spiritual lethargy, is go back to a time in your spiritual life, in your relationship with Jesus, and consider what CDs, what music were you listening to during that time. So over the past 2 weeks, I've been listening to these guys. I don't know if you recognize that. Here it comes. That's Shane and Shane, but it's not just Shane and Shane 2019, it's Shane and Shane 2001, 2002. And that was a period of time in my life where I had just gotten back from the mission field, and I was introduced to Shane and Shane by some college guys that I was serving with Campus Crusade. I was volunteering my time at North Carolina State. So thank you, Travis and Chris, for introducing me to Shane and Shane upon my arrival to the United States from being overseas. And I hadn't even thought about this until I got my CDs in my car here, and popped the CD in. I was like, oh my goodness. And it came like smells of a kitchen, right? When you smell chocolate chip cookies or chicken noodle soup, it takes you back to a time. And so in the same way, music can take you back to a time in your life where you were passionate about the things of God. And so I want to encourage you, don't just, oh, that's a neat idea. Do it today. Take a CD, or take an MP3 of a song that you remember listening to at a time in your life when you were in love with God, when you were in love with the things of God, and just listen to it. And so I've been listening to that first song. I've been listening to this song on repeat for a few days, but I've been listening to the CD for the past 2 weeks. And it's taken me back to a time where I was passionate about the things of God, and it has been stirring up things, and people, as I've been driving, have been wondering, what in the world is he doing? Because I'm singing to it too, because that a part of this third way to combat spiritual lethargy is to sing with that song. And as you sing, your heart is lifted up. It may seem strange, and maybe you want to just do it in a room by yourself. I like to do it in the car with the air conditioning going and just driving, and I'm singing. Of course, I don't get bothered too much if people are looking at me wondering what I'm doing. But But maybe you are, and so maybe you just need to have a time where you pop in some earphones, go into a closet, and just sing. But at some point, going from listening to the song, letting the Spirit of God stir your heart and reminding you of the salvation that you've had, that He won for you at some point in your life in the past, and you've just forgotten. And you've grown soft, or your heart has become hardened to things of God. And so this will strengthen those muscles. This will strengthen that heart again to make it pump more passionately for the things of God. And it may not be after one listen. It may be after 4 or 5 or 6 or 10. It's taken me 10 to 15 listens to this song to just be like, yeah, I remember having conversations. I remember talking about God to others, and seeing people come to know Jesus, and the Lord will stir up what He first implanted within you, namely salvation, a new heart, a heart of flesh instead of a heart of stone. And so it's a constant cultivation that we have to do in our lives. And so I wanted to just spend this a little longer video than I anticipated, but I wanted to give you those 3 ways to fight spiritual lethargy. So if you find that you are hardened or uncaring about the things of God, maybe try those 3 things. Try 10 minutes of silence each day for the next week. And I mean, really do these things. I think a lot of times we hear suggestions and we're like, okay, I should do that. Just do it. Just do it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. 10 minutes of just plain silence. And then journal. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute journal. Maybe you have a lot to write down if you haven't done it in a while. But even if it's just set a timer again for 10 minutes and say, 10 minutes, I'm gonna write down what am I anxious about? What am I excited about? And then finally listening to a song from the past. From a time when you were passionate about the things of God. And so I promise, if you do those 3 things, the Spirit of God will begin stirring within you a joy and excitement, a humility for what He has done for you. And I hope that in some way it helps you. And I'd love to hear from you if you find like, oh wow, I tried it and it was awesome. Please let me know. Just drop me a direct message, make a comment. And if it's not, if you're like, wow, it's not really helping, maybe you have a question. Maybe you have some suggestions on what you've done in the past, and I'd love to hear those too. This is just something that I've been brewing over for the last couple days, and thought I'd put it on social media to help people with any kind of spiritual lethargy that they may be feeling. So silence to combat the busyness, writing to combat the confusion and the jumbled thoughts, and then music to sing and to fill the air with praise and with adoration of God. So hope you have an awesome day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.